I know what it feels like to be sitting there thinking, am I not good enough? Why did he cheat on me? What did I do to deserve this? Firstly, I just want to say, don't blame yourself for your partner cheating on you. It's not your fault. In this video, I'm going to follow into why potentially men cheat in the relationships, what they were going to come back and do after they have cheated, try and crawl their way back in, what you can do to help yourself after you have experienced being cheated on, because I know it's not a nice feeling. And if you are someone who keeps getting cheated on, at the end of this video, I'm going to share reasons potentially why you keep getting cheated on and what you can actually do for your own self to move on from that. Hi beautiful, I'm Katie Bampton, somatic sexologist and relationships coach. I do give a lot of context and education in my videos, but I also give practical tips of what you can actually implement today to get over the thing, the subject, the title, whatever we were talking about. And obviously in this video, it's about being cheated on. So I've got 3 brutal reasons why men cheat. And the first one is the lack of emotional intelligence, the emotional maturity. So let's say your partner hasn't felt that he has the space to be able to communicate what he needs and wants in the relationship, and this is leading him to feeling fear. So things would be going on internally for him, but he doesn't have the skills to be able to open up or communicate his feelings, wants or needs, which then bottles up inside of us. And this isn't just for men, it's also for women as well, but this bottles up inside of us and then gets really heated and elevated. And if we don't have the skill set, the acknowledgement, the conversational skills or the tools to be able to have vulnerable conversations that are needed in the relationship, that is when the man will go and cheat. It's kind of like, rather than facing their own fears, their own insecurities, their own anxieties of what potentially isn't happy or what isn't healthy for them in the relationship, instead of owning and acknowledging these things, they just literally put a blind wall, ignore them and go and do XYZ. Cheating is actually a way for a man or anyone to distract themselves to the emotional turmoil that's going on inside of us. And within that, I mean, like, if they are coming into a space of avoiding, is your partner who has cheated, is he someone who often avoids communication? Is he someone who often avoids the vulnerability and the honesty? Or is he someone, when things get heated and you do have uncomfortable moments, is he really quick to shut you down and to project and to blame everything onto you, making it out like it's your fault? I can tell you right now, it is not your fault, but that is how, without the skills and tools, that is why someone would cheat in the relationship, because he doesn't actually have that ability to communicate or face the fears, the insecurities, or the worries for themselves or the relationship, or what is happening. I'm pretty sure your man hasn't actually thought about the consequences and what potentially could happen afterwards, after he's committed and cheated and committed the act. Like, he might have just needed that get out quick, that release, that exhale, and he's gone and done that externally, because going to someone else, there's less drama, there's less conversations, there's less need for vulnerability. He can just go and let loose. He's probably seen the dopamine rush within that, seen how good that would feel in that moment, so he doesn't have to deal with everything else. But really, there's going to be so much more to deal with now after he has cheated, because previously what was there before he was cheated and afterwards now is going to be so much more for you both to deal with emotionally. Then why couldn't he have just come to you in the first place? And another one to be aware of, emotionally immature men will kind of like come crawling back and expect you to forgive them, because they don't have the skills and the feelings or the processor to be able to understand really deeply what has happened here. And so they will maybe just kind of brush it off or avoid it, like I said previously. It was like, but babe, it didn't mean anything. And don't get me wrong, sometimes when men cheat, it doesn't mean anything. They just want that physical release. But still, within your relationship, if that's your boundaries and your rules in the relationship, that is just the two of you, then it just needs to stick like that. Another reason why men potentially cheat is seeking out a validation or an ego boost. So let's say your partner is talking to someone on Instagram and they've seen this beautiful model. And this model, this girl, whoever it is, maybe it's a work colleague, has been texting and sending him pictures and having that kind of, cheating on the side before actually committing that act, more the emotional cheating. And so what this does, because he is getting validation from the girl, the colleague, the person, whoever that is, saying, oh my God, you look so hot in work today. I really like when you wear your t-shirt like that in the gym. He is getting external validation, which is then boosting his ego to a point where I don't even know if he'll be able to walk through the door. So what this is doing, he's searching that dopamine hit, he's searching that rush, and he knows he can get that feel-good factor from the girl that he is exchanging with. And for some men, it's not even about sex, really. It's about being desired. So if someone else is giving him that validation, it's like boosts him into a way of like, oh yeah, I've still got it. You know, oh yeah, I've been with my girlfriend for like 5 years and she doesn't give me these compliments and she doesn't think of me like this. I'm going to go elsewhere to get it. And I'm not saying you don't give him compliments, but that is actually something to look into. It's just like, is your partner someone who desires words of affirmation, or, you know, appreciates the little subtle touches of like, oh, hey babe, you look great tonight. And as small as it is, we all appreciate feeling love in whatever way that is. And maybe he has not been feeling this in his relationship from you, so he's searching outside of himself to kind of go and get that cup filled. Just like anyone, if a man's love language is also being, you know, like I said, words of affirmation or being admired or praised, and this is not happening in the relationship, say, like relating back to the first one about the emotional immaturity, if he doesn't have that emotional capacity, then he doesn't have the skills and the language to be able to communicate what he needs. So instead of actually bringing this forward into the relationship that takes honesty and guts to actually bring this conversation up, he's just going to go and search elsewhere. And I'm not giving excuses to men, but these are reasons why it happens. And sometimes, you know, it can just be that ego boost. The third one I'm going to come into is the lack of physical connection. So following on as well from your love languages, potentially your partner's love language is physical touch or quality time, spending that love touch together. If you are in your relationship and you haven't been having a lot of physical intimacy, you haven't been connecting, maybe, you know, you've been getting home from work, your partner's sitting on the sofa, and you just get home, drop your bags down, scrolling on your phone, have a shower, and don't really give him any acknowledgement, he might feel like unappreciated and unvalued. And same again, if he's not having the skills and the awareness to communicate this is when they will go and search outside, because it's like, oh, my partner's not even giving me this at home. Generally, an emotionally mature man would communicate that and be like, hey babe, you know, I'm feeling a little bit unloved. When you get home from work, you just drop your bags down, you sit on your phone, you have your shower, and we go to bed. Like, I really want to spend some time with you. That would be a good way to communicate what is actually happening. But if your man doesn't have that emotional capacity, that emotional maturity within him, then that is probably why he'll go and cheat. It really is a big one if when we don't get our cup filled at home, we'll externally go and get that elsewhere. Let's be clear, disconnection is not an excuse, but can you see why and how if a baby doesn't have its water, its food, its cuddles and its love, the baby's going to be crying. Adults are in a way just the same. If your man or your partner, whoever that is, doesn't have what we need at the home, they're going to be crying inside, but instead of actually dealing with it there and then, they're going to look outside of themselves to fill those cups. And now I'm going to come into what you need to be aware of if your partner has cheated, and how to kind of hold yourself and navigate the next step. So there's a high chance that he is going to come to you and he'd be like, but it didn't mean anything, and like, I really won't do it again. He's going to put those, like, you know, puppy tears on, and you're going to feel really sorry for him because you really, really love him, and then you're probably going to take him back. But you need to remember what has happened here, and this can probably lead to a lot of betrayal and trust within the relationship. And is this something you emotionally want to be dealing with? There's a high chance they're going to twist the truth and they're going to say, oh my God, you're so overreacting right now. But you know, if you have been cheated on, this is not your fault. That is not you who has completed that act. It is your partner, and it is the truth. Even if they were lacking that emotional connection or they were lacking that physical touch, they didn't need to go and cheat. They just needed to simply have the conversation. So that's denying it and gaslighting it. And then another one is like blaming the relationship, similar to what I've just said. If they didn't have that enough physical touch, they might be saying, well, you don't give me this, and you never did this, and you always sit scrolling on your phone. I get that, but it's still not an excuse to cheat. He needs to know what he has done wrong. And if he wants to bring himself back around to make the relationship work, this is on him. He needs to put in the work and the effort to first win you back if you want to be won back, or he needs to actually mend himself first to know why he has cheated, what he is not getting within the relationship, learn his emotional communication and emotional availability before you actually come into a harmonious relationship again. And trying to win you back is honestly such a big one that majority of men do because they don't think of the consequences. So he's just thought of this quick, fun dopamine hit that he's gonna have. He's gone and done with his cute girl from work. Sorry, I don't mean to offend you when I say cute girl from work. It's not like that. It's not that you're not cute. You know what I'm saying. And he's just really taken that dopamine hit and gonna run with it. So there's a high chance he'll come back and he'll be like planning more dates, wanting to take you out, making sure that you're always together. But really, he needs to pull himself together and get used to the consequences if they're coming. Girl, don't be light on him, okay? And another thing they might do that might actually really hurt, and maybe this is what your partner's done already, is just moved on fast. So he might have cheated, you found out, or found out through someone else. Obviously, it causes a lot of uproar and sadness within you. And a lot of men, because they don't actually want to own what's just happened, they don't want to say, yes, okay, I did this because I felt this way. They will just black it out completely and go and get into a new relationship and probably repeat the same patterns again and again because they're not actually looking at themselves and they're like, okay, why am I doing this? Cheating isn't healthy. Cheating isn't something what we do. It hurts people. It doesn't feel good. So why are we doing it? I just want to tell you, you are not alone through this process. And now I'm going to come into a couple of things that you can do to support yourself since you have been cheated on. And the first one, kind of touched on a little bit, is just letting go of blaming yourself. So I don't want you to sit there thinking, Katie, this is all my fault. Like, it's really not. There may be of moments when you weren't emotionally connected enough or you weren't giving each other so much love and touch. There may have been moments, and that's okay. We just need to look at that and it's like, okay, he was really wanting to have sex and we weren't having sex. So how can I build that within myself and the relationship so we can come into, whether this is for this relationship now or your next relationship, and just learn from the lessons and not say mistakes, but just learn from what's happened in the relationship compared to blaming yourself, because blaming yourself is not going to help you, the relationship, or your future relationship. Remember, he had a choice that he was going to cheat. He could have chosen to come back to you, come back to the relationship and have those conversations, to reach out to get some help. I do work with couples as well. So if you are navigating things at the moment or like, Katie, oh my God, we really need some help, head over to my website. I'll put the links below and you can book in a call with me or fill the form out and just share what you're navigating at the moment in your relationship, and then I can get back to you. Or, you know, if you do have any broader questions, you want to pop them in the comments below, I'll always get back to you guys as well. So remembering you didn't push him, he made that choice. Like I said, he could have chosen the relationship, but he has chosen to go out and hook up with a cute girl or whoever that might have been. It's not your fault. And often what happens next is we start holding ourselves with judgment and shame and not allowing our feelings to be felt. Like, you need to let yourself feel. What I suggest is getting a pillow and like just squeezing it so hard and like crying or being angry or letting it all out, because you have emotions and feelings. And if you're not feeling upset or hurt, this is probably just, there's nothing wrong with that, but it's probably just an indication of like, are you someone always who lives up in your head, and are you ever in your body? So the faster that you acknowledge the pain and the feelings that have come, the faster that you can release it. So let's say you're in this dynamic at the moment and you're kind of trying to work out what's going on. Usually you would just suppress your emotions and feelings to the side, like many women do, and just push them down. But if you're actually releasing them and healing them as you go along, whether you get to this end of this relationship or you work it out, you'll feel so much better during the process and not kind of bottling up these emotions, not speaking them, not saying actually how you feel, holding the tightness in there and then it blowing up later down the track. It's best to be so honest and open with your feelings. Like, your feelings are valid, your feelings matter, and don't let your partner or anyone tell you otherwise. And along this, healing just isn't about moving on. It's actually coming to a space of acknowledging what's just happened, why it's happened, how you can help yourself and move on through, and just making sure you do it on your terms. So if you choose to stay, you need to work on yourself and let go and not be bothered about this experience if you're choosing to move on together. Because at any time that you choose the relationship, but every other day you bring up, oh my God, you cheated on me. If you keep bringing that up, that is not you moving on, and that is not you trying to heal the relationship. you can do that. There is so many ways. I teach this inside of my Patreon as well. You can choose the relationship, and you can choose to let go, not to give up, but not be annoyed or have so much deep emotions and feelings around that because you've chosen the relationship to move forward. Or you may not be like, yeah, I really don't deserve this. I really don't want to deal with this. You don't choose the relationship. You choose to move on by yourself. And then you're like, okay, I'm moving on with my happy life. You moving on a way of what's really great actually within this is getting your journal and pen out, and it's writing down everything that you want in a relationship, how you want to feel, how you want your yummy sex to be, how you want your kisses to be, your love, how you want your boyfriend partner to show up within the relationship, whether that's the tasks, the challenges, how you navigate things in your day-to-day life, the kind of conversations you have, literally writing down your perfect relationship on a piece of paper, and then looking at your relationship. Is this the same? Or is this my fantasy land that is possible? And is this my reality? I'm like, which one do I want better? We want a fantasy relationship, and I'm telling you girls, they are out there. You can honestly make your fantasy relationship come true. You just have to be able to move through and move forward with what's actually happened in this moment. And then when you are ready, then you can choose to open your heart. Your heart will have really been pushed down and suppressed, and really that icky, sticky feeling onto it. And you want to give yourself that love as you move on through. Cheating is his fault, his actions, what he has done. Really, really don't take that on yourself. Promise me, okay? And now I'm just going to dive into a kind of a psychological reason on why we get cheated on. And I bet you have sat there thinking, why did this happen to me? Why do I always get cheated on? And I can tell you now, you're not the only one. If you are someone that has been constantly cheated on in your relationships, now this might be a little bit uncomfortable, you might be ready for it or not, depending the level that you are at in life. This is a very holistic approach. So often when we get cheated on in repetitive cycles and our relationships, what we want to do here is we take a bird's eye view and we look at the situation, we see the patterns, and we look at our past relationships and we look at the patterns of what was happening. He cheated on me, he cheated on me, he cheated on me, and this one's just cheated on me. Can you see there's a pattern? And who is the common denominator in this pattern? You. And so what this could potentially mean, there's a few reasons why, I'm just going to jump into one right now, is probably having unhealed childhood patterns. And by that, I mean the way that we grew up in our childhood really affects how we show up in relationships now. So are you always attracting someone in a relationship who's always cheating on you? And in your childhood, were you someone who grew up with betrayal, the lack of emotional capacity, the maturity, dishonesty, and kind of always cheating and secretive behind people's backs? Well, that cheating is secretive behind someone's backs, and that is the pattern that then, if this happened in your childhood, whether that was with your parents, your school teachers, your caregivers, your brothers, your sisters, even your friends, if that's the experience that you lived for years in your childhood, this is a potential pattern why this is happening in your relationships now. And so I'm going to give you a little bit of homework on this. What we're going to do is, if you are constantly being cheated on, what I'm going to get you to do is get your pen and paper out and write down all of the partners' names that cheated on you. And then next to it, write down what happened, what was the experience, and where you were, how old you were, because obviously, going over some time, and just writing down the experience. Then when you've got all this written down, I want you to look at what are the similarities, and then what are the similarities of the emotions and feelings to my childhood. We all have unhealed wounds, we all have childhood trauma. It's just part of the natural evolution of humans. Some of us are just aware of it, some will never be, and some are kind of curious into like, Katie, I think you're onto something here. I am, and I'm here teaching you and helping you because I've also been there myself through it, and I see this so much within my clients. The patterns keep repeating, but you can literally stop your patterns when you start healing and working on yourself and noticing the patterns. Be like, girl, I ain't doing this again. I want my fantasy relationship. So I'm going to work on that. I'm going to work on myself and probably understand why I keep attracting these unhealthy, unavailable men, when actually all I want is just some happy love. And I'm just going to expand on that a little bit more so you can understand if you don't already. Even though we hate the thing, obviously we hate our partner cheating, subconsciously our mind thinks differently. Because if you have grown up with, let's say, an immature, emotionally unavailable, avoidant father, are you attracting emotionally unavailable, emotionally avoiding partners? Because especially as a female, as we grow up, generally the first man we had around was our father. And a daughter's first love becomes a father. And if at that time in your life, if your father was avoidant, he wasn't really there, didn't give you the physical attention, he just kind of like brushed you off or wasn't too present, there's a chance that you are attracting all of this within a partner as well. So that's why it's really, really great to write down all your past partners, all the traits, and see the similarities between your childhood and now. And don't get me wrong, there's absolutely nothing wrong with this. We all go through this. I've been there, my friends have been there, every coach has been there. And it's something that's not spoken about enough, but doing this inner work and doing the subconscious work honestly can lead you to the happy, harmonious, loving, fantasy relationship. Alrighty, so what are you thinking right now? What are you feeling? Feel free to comment below. What have you learned from this video and what are you going to implement today? Is that just changing your language and your words around, okay, this isn't my fault, or thank you, Katie, I never really thought about, like, yeah, my dad wasn't present with us when we were children. And now my partners, they're not present with me either. It just gives you some food for thought to think about. If you have any questions, you can pop them below. That is it for me today. See you in the next video.